Welcome back to Primility Primer, episode number 3. And this is, of course, our daily morning reminder about the importance of balancing our pride and balancing our humility as we go about our daily lives. And today I want to talk about a quote that I read yesterday in an article. This was an article in Grantland.com. The author's name is Rani Jazayurli. I hope I pronounced that right. I probably did not. Um, and the article itself is about the San Diego Padres. So the specific content of the article isn't what I want to talk about, although I'll link it to the show notes, or link it in the show notes if you want to check it out. But what I want to talk about is a passage that was right in the middle of it. And that passage is this: not having the answers isn't fatal if you at least have the self-awareness to know what you don't know. And the article is about a general manager who took over the Padres and over the course of several weeks during the offseason made a series of moves, getting rid of players that were currently on the team, bringing in new players. And during the first season under that general manager, the team is not performing well. And so the article basically chastises this general manager for coming in, not taking enough time really to assess the situation and just making all these grand moves. Now, we won't know for 3 or 4 years because of the nature of baseball whether he was actually right, but certainly the early returns don't look good. But again, what's important is this idea of what do we do when we don't have the answers to a question that were posed? So in this case, the general manager, the question that was posed to him is, how are you going to take us from a mediocre team to a great team? And he just decided to start answering that question when perhaps he should have taken time to think about the answer or assess it. And I think this is something that happens to us all in our daily lives. I know it happens to me a lot, whether if I'm being interviewed on someone else's podcast or if I'm on a panel discussion during a presentation, for example. Sometimes I will get asked questions that I haven't had a chance to prepare for, maybe that I didn't foresee, and I may not know the answer. And at that point, there are really 2 options. The first option is to just make something up or say something that sounds good, but I can't necessarily verify. I don't know if it's true, but in the moment, it saves face. And if I deliver it confidently, whether it's true or not, it will make me look good, right? And so for that prideful part of me that when out there on display in a presentation setting or an interview setting, I want to look good. I want to do a good job. I want to come off as smart and competent and all of those different things. So I can just give an answer that will make me look like that. But if the answer isn't right, then who have I benefited? The people listening certainly haven't benefited because I haven't given them good information. The person who has asked me to be on this panel or to be on this interview isn't benefiting because the guest that they're bringing on is delivering bunk information. And while I may benefit in the moment from not having to deal with that momentary embarrassment, that humbling moment, frankly, of not knowing a question that someone thinks I should know, I'm not going to benefit in the long term if I'm giving out information that isn't good. So that's the first option, and it's not a particularly good option, even though it's an option a lot of times that we choose, whether it's in a public setting or whether it's just in a private setting with maybe someone that we're in a relationship with or a parent or a friend. The second option would be to simply admit that we don't know the answer, which in the moment is difficult to do. That prideful part of us that wants to look good, that wants to have the answers, is really going to push back against that. But this is where having the self-awareness, having the ability to almost step back, see ourselves, see our reaction, feel our reaction before we just act on it, and take that moment to say, okay, now wait a second. What's really causing the feeling that I'm having right now? What's causing me to want to do this? And if it's pride that's running rampant, that's where we need to say, okay, let's just stop for a minute. Let me take a humble moment here and realize that the person who's asking me this question isn't going to benefit if I give them bad information. No one else in this situation is going to benefit. And even I'm not going to benefit in the long term, because while my pride may think, hey, if I just look good in the moment, I can take care of whatever moment comes down the road. The truth is that there's credibility and there's trust, and that builds up over time. And none of us can simply wipe away eroded trust in a day or in 5 days or with a simple action. It takes time. And there's a humility to understanding that. And there's a humility to making choices that benefit everybody in a situation, not just ourselves. So even if in that moment, it's not going to make us look good. And even if it's something that we should know, and maybe that's why we're pushing back, because it's like, man, I should have read that book. I should have read that article. I should have studied this. I should have encountered this. Then we need to take that also as a learning experience, understand why we didn't learn something that we should know, so that the next time when we get asked that question, we know answers to the questions that we should know. But also remember that we're just people. We only have our experiences. We can't know everything, and we can't know every question that people are going to ask us. So it's okay to say, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question, but I'll find out for you. I'll find out. I'll get back to you. Hey, and thanks for asking me that question, because through the process of finding out, this will make me better, and I appreciate the opportunity to learn and the knowledge that I'll gain. So as you go through your day today and the next few days, try and see when someone asks you a question that you don't know the answer to, how do you respond? What's your first response in that moment? Do you get defensive? Do you immediately start trying to think of something, trying to come up with some answer just to fill the awkward space that always comes up after we get asked a question that we don't know? How do you react to that? And if that is your reaction, can you take a step back and can you push that pride to the side just a little bit, balance it with a little bit of humility, and then provide an answer, even if it isn't the specific answer that was being looked for, at least an answer that is the best in that situation, even if the answer is, I don't know. Because sometimes that is the best answer to whatever question is being asked. Thank you very much for joining me on another episode of the Primility Primer. I will be back tomorrow morning at 6:30 for episode 4. Hope to see you right here.